All right, let's do it. Let's hit the books. Week 7 of college football alongside the man, the myth, the legend himself, Mr. Joey Knish. I'm merely Brad Powers. We're going to talk week 7 of a loaded college football card. But before we get to several big games of the week, we always recap what we just saw, recapping best bets, another winning week, mainly due to Knish again. He comes out on top once again, although I won't mention an SMU UCF game.
I lost the one that mattered, though. That's what I guess, you know what? I talked to the producer. They said with the schedule change, they probably got to avoid it. So, you know, I'm a man of integrity. I would hate to have to avoid it, but, you know, whatever the network wants to do.
Well, my tickets, I don't know what your tickets were on the game, but my tickets cashed on the game. So, the delay or no delay, my tickets cashed. So let's talk about best bets because, I mean, 4-2 last week, 22-12 on the season. I always start with a negative, and it was mainly because of me because I liked Utah against UCLA, and for the second week in a row, I came up short big time against UCLA. I underrated that team, to say the least, coming into the season. I know I did it. They were really inexperienced. DTR, the quarterback, had been inconsistent for 4 years. Now he's playing like a Heisman Trophy finalist consistently. So, you know, I missed the boat on UCLA. So I lost with Utah. Also, what a terrible total I gave out on Florida State, NC State. Market said I was an idiot, and results said I was an idiot. The winners, you and I agreed on a lot. We'll start with yours. San Jose State, easy winner on Friday night for you. TCU, depending on the line, shop. Told you around a key number, important. 6.5 on last Monday. We cashed there. Closes 7.5. Tennessee was an easy winner. We'll get to that and the failures of Brian Kelly. South Florida was another one we agreed on. LA almost went outright as a 4-touchdown underdog. Let's start with some teams that impressed you, Knish, because I'm not going to mention one that I always start the show with. We'll just let them go by the wayside this week, that being a team that used to play up in Pontiac, and now
my audio's messing up. Did you say Blue Jays? Did you say Blue Jays blowing the biggest playoff lead ever? I couldn't believe that either. Yeah, well, wild one. Yeah, no, that's right. But yeah, we can skip over NFL if you want to.
Yeah, we're going to skip over your team there in Michigan. So teams that impressed you, and I'll leave you the board here. And what stood out to you from Saturday?
Yeah, you know, I mean, we were, and this is one, we were against some people that have market respect with Tennessee. They came into it, and they just laid out. Did they get some, some good fourth down variants in that game? Sure, but you know, the players they were missing. You know, Brew McCoy came out and had a fantastic. He's kind of the player that a lot of people thought he could be once he gets kicked out of USC in that. So I thought they were fantastic. The offense, the defense was better than I even thought it could be in that game. Really, second half laying the smackdown. I will say, and this is key. I'm not in love with them this week, but that's not the game that matters. The game that matters will be the game against Georgia for our SEC, and I'm feeling better about that game. This is a game against Alabama that I think I agree. They're pressing every week. A few weeks ago, if you would have told me they had a puncher's chance against Georgia, I would have said probably not. seeing a little bit of what's happened to Georgia the last few weeks. I'm willing to say they've at least got into that puncher's chance game in that realm now. But if Bryce Young is back, I will not be riding the Rocky Top again this week. But great performance. Glad we could cash then. And I know we were very big on that.
Yeah, I'll start with the best bet of the team that impressed me. I mentioned it already, UCLA. I mean, a team that I didn't think they had that in them this year. That's back to back.
You gave me a softball for the head-to-head. You threw it up and said, "Yeah, Joey K, you want to go head-to-head on this one?" And I sat there and froze. Yeah. I didn't take it.
I knew I was in bad shape. I mean, by Wednesday, Mark would agree with me the first couple of days of the week, and then Wednesday afternoon, that flood of UCLA money came in, and I knew I was dead. So, and the game didn't play out that much better. I'll mention a team that we cashed against that impressed me. Kansas, a team that, lost their starting quarterback in the first half, only have 3 points on the board, and they go up and down the field with their second-string quarterback in the second half. And got to tell you, if Daniels in the first half doesn't fumble at the goal line, probably dead in the water. They miss a key field goal as well. I thought Kansas impressed me. I mean, they got a ton of weapons. I like their tight end. They got a couple wide receivers, great at play calling. They're well coached, and even with a backup quarterback, they went toe-to-toe with, I think, a very talented TCU team. So Kansas, even in a loss, even in a game that we covered against them, I came away certainly impressed with the Jayhawks. Another team for you.
Yeah, no, I mean, I'll agree with you there. Of like the Kansas defense being able to kind of, keep that was surprising to me. I mean, basically TCU's offense was like, we're going to throw it to our round one wide receiver. And that's all they had for a lot of that game was just, lobbing passes to Quinn Johnson. I'm surprised that TCU wasn't able to be a little bit more effective there. The fight, I got to give them credit. I was not, I know this team, you jumped on some of the steam early this week. I did not partake in this one, but the fighting Jim Leonard, the Jim Leonard era. Now, granted, they're playing the Corps of Northwestern, but absolute burial. They changed a few things around on offense there. And I saw you like them again this week. Against another, Corps team in Michigan State. But, Wisconsin, I mean, the biggest offensive explosion they've had since, when Ron Dane was on campus? So, like, that was quite a performance and that's a performance that gets those type of performances that get you the full-time job there for Jim Leonard. I think it was going to be there anyway, but absolute hammered them. And maybe it's not too late to make a backdoor run here at the Big Ten West. That was very impressive for his first outing.
Well, I think even with a couple of losses in conference might do it for the West Division. I mean, they're just going to beat up on one another throughout the whole season. So it's going to be last man standing. You're right, Wisconsin. I mean, this time of year, numbers are tighter. I mean, we saw in the last 24 hours, the market is just, there's no wiggle room. I mean, people are firing like you wouldn't believe.
Monday morning, early this morning.
Look, I'm not the only one. Like, I do it, but I'm surprised. I see a lot of groups in the past that would wait until Thursday. They're firing now on Monday morning.
Yep.
So, Wisconsin was one of those that I attacked. I wasn't the only one that attacked that one. You're looking for fundamental changes. I mean, fundamental change was get rid of Paul Chryst and his 1990s style of offense, and all of a sudden Wisconsin throws 6 touchdown passes last week. And defensively playing a little bit with more emotion. I think it continues this week. I know the number's gotten away from us, but I mean, push came to shove, I'd still lay the 7 with Wisconsin. Against a Michigan State team, you're right there. I mean, Mel Tucker struck gold with the transfer portal last year. Not so much this year with a banged-up team. And I think I question some of the locker room chemistry because, I mean, that Ohio State final was worse in the box score than what it was on the final scoreboard. I mean, that was a
50-point game that ended in a 30-point game there. Yeah, I totally agree there. They fit the way I like to call it the injury point of no return there, where they didn't have much depth coming into the season, and they've lost players that are just not replaceable, especially on defense in the secondary, on the defensive line. And now, you're getting that where the season goes off the rails, and now where a lot of people want to change a quarterback, and they want the defensive coordinator fired. They don't have the horses to replace what they've lost. So they're kind of one it's hard to their numbers are bottoming out so much that it's hard to catch up on here. Where they got faded by a touchdown last week, still didn't cover in a game that they should have lost by even more. Now this, opened up pretty short, has been stated good. Probably, I wouldn't surprise me if this closes above 7. Gets upwards of 10. They just don't have players. I don't think that they're going to get a lot of those guys back. So yeah, I'm not sure where the bottom is for Sparty at the moment.
Well, we'll find out by the end of the year. I think it might be a 3-9, 4-8 team at best this year. Yep. So not looking good there in East Lansing. I hate to admit it. I bet over 7. The market was painted 7.5. I bet over 7 wins. That, folks, is what we call a loser. Briefly, I'll mention a couple teams pulled some big outright upsets. Texas State over App State. That was a big one as 19-point underdog. Nothing really fluky there. I know App State won the yardage battle, but they were throwing from behind big time. I think the App State quarterback attempted over 50 passes. So that's why that one was a little if you read in the box score, don't look into it too much. Texas State was the right side there. Another team with an interim coach playing much better. They haven't given up. I question whether they might give up the season is Arizona State. I mean, I thought they looked good in the first half against SC last week, and then they put the 2-touchdown home underdog. They beat Washington. Legitimate game, too, and they lose their quarterback in the game. Emory Jones, backup, comes in, gives them actually a better passing threat. They go up and down the field against an overrated Washington defense. So kudos to Arizona State with an interim coach not waving the white flag. So any other teams before we get into some of the negativity?
Where was I going to go? Troy. You mentioned them on the show last week. They are the biggest threat to my Mobile dynasty there, because they lay. There's a Southern Miss team that I was kind of bullish on coming into the year. I think they had some good performances. I actually bet some 7 once it got up there. And Troy's just laying. I mean, now we're going to see the Sun Belt battle of the Titans here, not this week, but following up when they play each other coming up. But yeah, and with a backup quarter, I'm talking to someone how did Troy's starting quarterback gets hurt, and you're like, okay, fine. How did they get Jared Dunn out of the MAC, who's a decent G5 quarterback to get the backup there? I know he was on Western Kentucky 3 weeks ago, and then he comes into Troy, and now he's saving their season as a backup. So yeah, frustrating for us Mobile ticket holders there, but yeah, they look good. So that's going to be I might have to fly down, to Fun Belt country for that one, and
I doubt
see what it is. But no, they're the real deal. I'm excited, very excited for that one in 2 weeks.
Yeah, that will be. I think the winner there wins that side of the division, and gives you, if you bet one of those futures before the season, yeah, you're going to have a hedging opportunity against whoever comes out of the East. Can't be James Madison. Looks like I think
another one. With James Bad, they're not going to get any talk because nobody. They might go undefeated in the Sun Belt year 1. This is like North. I thought this is like North Dakota State if they got dropped in the Mountain West. They boom come in and they're the best team in the conference. They go undefeated. It's crazy. They're just blowing. They lost a lot. This was supposed to be a regression year for James Madison. They come up to the Sun Belt and they're just hammering teams. I bet them again this week.
Why not? I mean, they hammered Arkansas State worse than the scoreboard there indicated. Yeah. I think they outgained them by almost 400 yards. So it's amazing what James Madison's doing. I think they're approaching the top 40 in my power ratings already. That's incredible. First year FBS team. Let's start with some negativity. I'm going to start with the big game on Saturday night, CBS. Jalen Milroe, quarterback, Alabama. Hindsight's always 20/20. I should have had bigger money on Texas A&M because the market really – I don't think the market really downgraded Alabama at all. When you look at that 24.5-point line, it was basically saying Bryce Young was playing.
To 22.5, 23, right back to 24, instantly. So, you're 100% right there.
I mean, he has 4 turnovers. I think he had 3 of the 4 turnovers. That's the most turnovers in an Alabama in any of their games in 7 years. Didn't take care of the football. Obviously, he struggles as a passer. One thing I'll say, Alabama does not have the wide receiver core that they've had the last 5-6 years. They just don't have a lot of playmakers outside of Jahmyr Gibbs offensively. Maybe it's the Bill O'Brien effect. That offense – very stagnant. And if Bryce Young doesn't play this week, they're in trouble trying to keep up with the Tennessee offense. Although sneaky suspicion, hint, wink, wink. I think he's going to play. Yeah. I think Alabama's going to play well, folks. So that's one where I think I'm going to talk myself into having an Alabama ticket by the week, because everyone's talking, the demise of Alabama football. I've seen this story before. We'll see with Tennessee. I think Tennessee's getting too much credit for LSU last week, but Jalen Milroe was a big downgrade. Thumbs down for him. He didn't impress at all. Well, what about you?
I don't think in today's college football, especially against good, you can do that run-based RPO without much of a passing threat. Like, that feels like something that's kind of been like solved by a lot of defenses and a lot of defensive coordinators, where if you're not going to be able to pass out of the RPO game, it's really not going to be able to be that effective. And so Milroe, even though he's an insane athlete and the size of that, like, again, Texas A&M and DJ Durkin, like they've seen this for years. They've got some guy, even though they're young, like, so they just weren't able to really, without that passing threat. And as you said, they're not that elite. It's a Bama team that's had, first round wide receivers for years. That's kind of, taking a step back there, wide receiver. It's just, it's totally different offense with him that I don't think can be that effective in college football anymore. So that one, I'll go. And we've dunked on this a few times. Like, that Virginia loss with no Malik Cunningham at quarterback. Yeah. That's a game that got steamed from three. From Virginia getting 3 to closing -3. Malik Cunningham, whose backup Brock Dorman was so bad the week before, and to not only lose this game, but to lose it by almost in the end there, having no shot, getting blown out. I mean, this is we've saw some coaches here getting fired by at the end of the season. Now a lot of them most of them aren't year one, or they've been kind of down, but this is a disaster at Virginia and Tony Elliott. That to give up 34 points to that offense and that quarterback, get them out. I've seen enough. There's no saving it. Like, you just know at this point, we've seen enough data to know that whatever it is that Tony Elliott's doing, it's not going to work, and it's not going to take time, because that is one of the worst losses of the entire season.
Be careful saying that on Twitter, because I said that last week after the Duke game, and oh my God, so many Tony Elliott apologists. I didn't even think it was that controversial of a statement. I mean, if you watch football, you're right. You can see it. I mean, it's brutal. I mean, the market treated like Cunningham was worth 10 points to the spread, and they still, it's just unbelievable to me that they don't even come close there. Big downgrade, Virginia, and I don't think the bleeding stops. That's just beginning to start there. Another team, I go back to 2 weeks ago. Had they actually lost like they should have, what would the firestorm be like in Baton Rouge right now? After a blowout loss to Tennessee, you already got the fans getting grumbling there. They should have lost to Auburn, a very bad Auburn team. They got outgained by almost 200 yards in that one. So thumbs down for LSU. Brian Kelly, seen this story before, watched it for 12 years in Notre Dame. He plays a top 10 team. They're not ready. They fumble the opening kickoff, and away we go, not ready to play. I'm not that surprised. You and me, nice winner there. Didn't have to sweat that one, to say the least. No, I'm going to go to another first-year coach that I'm not there yet. I'm going to give this guy a couple years, but it's bad, because week after week we're seeing stuff. First time since 1998, first time since 1999, first time since 1997. That it predates one Bob Stoops. Of course, I'm talking Oklahoma and Brent Venables. I don't care that you're down to a backup quarterback. I don't care that you have to play Wildcat. Your forte is on the defensive side of the ball, and you guys are lost. I mean, I know it's Texas, and they got a lot of weapons, and Quinn Ewers is now healthy, but what a disgrace. 49-0 in that one. Back-to-back weeks, they get absolutely demolished. And looking at the rest of the schedule, this is now an Oklahoma team in a very competitive Big 12 where there's no layups. They're going to have to fight, claw, and scratch to get the bowl eligibility. And I'm not sure anybody in Norman thought that would be the case.
No, and you know what? This reminds me, a few weeks ago on the show, we talked about Chris Reynolds being like one of the most valuable quarterbacks, potentially worth 10, 12, 14 points to the spread to his team. I'm going to put Dylan Gabriel in that bucket. They don't have a guy who can complete a pass without him. They're running Wildcat down 30 in the second half because they don't have anybody that can play, literally complete a pass. So And I know it's a new staff and all that, but I remember some Oklahoma beat writers saying like, this is they have no depth at the quarterback position. Yeah, poor Mikey V there. You know, I know. I'm sure he's excited for USC there. They're looking pretty good. No, I mean, this is one where like Gabriel. They've got Kansas this week. You know, it opened up around 9. Then it got bet down, trading around 7. I mean, this is one that like, if Gabriel doesn't play, should this line be 3? Should it be a pick? Like, I think he's going to. Don't get me wrong, but like, if he doesn't, I mean, there's not much of a difference between Kansas and OU if Gabriel's not going to play. So, yeah,
well, let me ask you this: if he does play, I think he plays.
I think so too.
I think if he plays, it's a little cheap, to be honest with you.
And you know what? I would lean that, and I know this is going to be, you know, I'm sure it'll be one where everybody's loving Kansas at this point. I agree with you that, you know what, if it got down, if I get under a touchdown, I know Gabriel's playing. I agree. It's a little cheap there.
I got to look at Daniel's situation. Not that he's worth that much because the backup came in and played well, but I'm not sure he's going to play this week. So, I mean, it could be an instance where I got the second string, you know, quarterback for Kansas, and I got a guy coming back for Oklahoma. So that's one to keep an eye on. I agree with you. I'm not there to the window yet. But that's one I agree. If it's under 6.5, I think I'm on fire regardless, just because I got an inkling that he's going to play. Yeah, I'm talking Dylan Gabriel, but that's one that to keep monitoring throughout the week. Well, there's a lot of value out so far this week. There's still a lot of quarterback question marks for a multitude of teams that could give you some value if you get in front of the news. So that's one to keep an eye on. Any teams that you're narrow pointing down for after last Saturday?
You know, old friend of the Ann Arbor faithful, Brady Hoke. I mean, they were a minute away from losing to Hawaii. They
got steamed.
It got steamed like 3 times. It got steamed up to 21, then 23, then 24. I mean, it was just money on San Diego State, and they were never covering that game at any point. They're down in that. Hawaii takes the lead with a minute to go. So yeah, I was up late rooting for Timmy Chang to you know get off the Schneider and FBS. I don't know, like the Mountain West as a whole has been incredibly disappointing in a lot of places, but they just cannot run anything on offense. And saying, I mean, it's one. Maybe we saw the bottom finally come in on Hawaii. I couldn't pull the trigger on it, but that was one where it's like, oh my God, San Diego State is just horrific. And I'll stick in there. Fresno isn't without the Hain dog, Jake Hainer. Logan Fife ain't it. And let me tell you, I think San Jose State wraps up that division this week because Hainer, it came out today, he ain't coming back, and Fife, they've got more injuries than him, and Fife just can't do it. They're a team that's got to score points. They can't do it without him, and Fresno is in big trouble.
They made a bad hire too, Jeff Tedford, that retread hire. The only retread hire that I can remember worked out was Bill Snyder, Kansas State, Hall of Famer. Everyone else, it just doesn't work, man. Your health, you can't win 2 years ago. Now all of a sudden you can't. So bad hire there. I agree with you. I mean, in the chat there, I see Air Force underwhelming. You damn right, man. I mean, they've been a double-digit favorite in every game so far, and they got 2 losses. I'm going to have to sweat out a season win total over 7.5 that had no business sweating out. I thought that should have been a winner. Already moving towards that now. I mean, it's going to come down to the final week. So you're right. Mountain West has been bad. Now, Little Birdie told me that you might leave the stream if I bring this one up, but another team that vastly disappointed last week, Tulsa. That was bad. Really, really bad. So I'm sorry.
I mean, the Navy fullback is like I had like 2 60-yard carries. Like they're just handing it to the up man, and he's just running by everybody. That was one. Oh my God, the frick! You know, like I tell you, I might not show up to the Friday show.
I tried to warn you. I said I bet Navy.
The Navy, and then I get the.
And then I saw that Knish
the bottom on Tulsa, and then you're thinking, and then they just could not. I mean, like this is a Navy team who hasn't even in the games they've covered and been in, they haven't been able to hit big runs or big plays and all that. They're just handing it off to the fullback, and he's running down the middle of the defense for 70 yards. So yeah, I'm jumping off the aircraft carrier on that one.
Well, I'm off the aircraft carrier this week. I'm going to fade Navy. So
You
that'll
go a little
be
Pony
hint, hint,
Express?
wink, wink. Yeah, we're going to ride some ponies later in the show. So, yeah, I'm not buying what, just because they had their best game of the year. So we'll be fading that later. Let's talk some big games because there's a ton of them this week. I mean, there's 5 ranked on ranked matchups. That's incredible. We'll start in your neck of the woods. We got Penn State playing Michigan, battle of unbeatens here. A
So very
Michigan team.
differing opinions from people in the market on this one too.
There is. I mean, I'll start it off. My power rings actually like Michigan spot for me. Penn State off a bye. I mean, Michigan has not, shown some weaknesses in a couple games now that they've gotten into conference play, particularly against Maryland and in the first half last week against Indiana. I'm not a big James Franklin guy in big games, especially on the road. Man, 6.5. I mean, I respect the money that came in on Penn State. I get it at 7.5, but I mean, if you're telling me right now, give me a $20 bill, what way you betting? I'm laying the 6.5 with the Wolverines here. I just that's what I mean. I got to stick with my power ratings, and they say value on Michigan here. What say you?
You know what? Again, around a touchdown. I just saw. I grabbed a little bit of early Penn State 7.5, so it's not a significant position for me either way. It's one of those like at 7.5. I like leaning back 6.5. I don't blame people for taking Michigan. I've seen people, sharp guys I know on both sides of this one that they were buying the 7.5, then buying the 6.5. So it's one Michigan now. Got a couple of injuries going on. Roman Wilson's been out. They're starting tight end. Eric All's been out. They're starting right tackle. Trente Jones went out. I don't think any of those guys are going to play this week. You talked about the scheduling spot here where Penn State gets a week to – I just think it's one – and I agree with you. Harbaugh's really, put it to Franklin in a number of spots that he's been at Michigan. I just think this is one that if the game plays out 1,000 times, I think it plays out under 7 more times than not in a little bit of a closer affair here. But I'm not in love with it either way. I mean, it's fantastic. I can't wait to watch it. Obviously, I'll be rooting at home, but it's not one that betting wise, I've got too strong of an opinion either way. It was a little bit of a small play over a touchdown for me, but I agree. Just if you did the raw number, I agree. 6.5 is a little short, but a couple of situational injuries keep me off it. So, yeah, for me, just one to sit back and enjoy.
Agreed. I am not to the window yet on that one. Let's talk about another big game. CBS 3:30, Alabama, Tennessee, third Saturday in October for this one. Right now, Alabama 7.5-point favorite. To me, that indicates that Bryce Young's probable. Not quite. He's going to be 100% healthy. But I certainly think with the Crimson Tide favored by more than a touchdown, says he's going to play, and they're going to need him after what I saw against A&M. I am not to the window yet on this one. I did bet it in the summer. I thought I had a great bet. I laid 8. Now I don't have that great of a bet, but I mean, come on. I got an Alabama with a quarterback injury issue, and Tennessee's exceeded expectations. So I do think I, at least at the time, had a good bet there. But that's nothing this week that I made yet, with the exception. I did play under, believe it or not. I think.
Okay.
Yeah, I think if Alabama, I mean, maybe their best defense against Tennessee's offense, obviously, is, to hold the football. I think they're capable of doing that. Again, I question even if Bryce does play, is he 100% healthy? Can they throw it down the field? I have my doubts on that. So I did play under 66.5. I still obviously would lean under 65.5. That's where I'm at right now. Where are you at?
You know what? I can't wait to see this crowd at 3:30 with a Tennessee team. This is going to be one of those classic college football crowds where the average BAC of the crowd's like 2.1. So this is going to be a phenomenal one. But I played some 7. I know Tennessee did us right last week. But number one, I agree with you. Bryce Young, I think, is going to play. He was jumping around the sidelines last week, no shoulder in a sling, any of that, moving around. I think he's going to play. I think they thought they could get away last week a little easier than they could. It feels like 90. I mean, Jesus Christ. It's at tomorrow the Rocky Top rendition. But unfortunately, right now, we're talking about betting, and we got to fade Rocky Top because I don't think that Tennessee's defense is particularly good in a number of areas. And they've got some injuries going on. And the unfortunate part is, like, they haven't really, like, Pitt was in the midst of exposing them. Then Slovis goes down. They haven't really played another opponent that's been able to do it. I just think 7 with Young is cheap, and it's a Tennessee team that I'm hoping that for 1 week I gotta get off the wagon. I hope they'll be able to bring it against Georgia. This one, though, I think 7 is a little bit of a discount. I'm not sure Tennessee's defense is actually very good. And you put Bama's defense. This is when we're Hendon Hooker. When he's going against this type of defense, he's just going to take so much punishment. He's a guy that, runs a lot, takes a lot of time to play. Like, this is one where Bama's just going to hit him. It's scary for me when you're backing Hooker in this type of a game. So for me, I laid a little bit of 7. Again, same thing as Penn State, smaller position, nothing I'm overly, bullish on, but I agree with Young. 7 is cheap.
Agree. If you get 7, I think I saw a little bit of juice there at Penny. 7. I would be in that position as well, laying it with the Crimson Tide. Another ranked-unranked matchup. Who had this one? Oklahoma State, TCU. Maybe the 2 best teams in the Big 12. Texas, I think, will have a say towards the end of the year. But right now, both of these teams, Oklahoma State and TCU, are both unbeaten. Right now, we have TCU a home favorite of about 3.5. That 4.5 at bookmaker. I'm on Oklahoma State at that number. I can tell you that. I'll say this: after watching both teams last week, I kind of want to fade both teams this week.
That's where I was going to go.
I wasn't impressed with either one. I know we cashed a ticket with TCU, but man, I mean, when Kansas play, if you'd told me before the game that Kansas would be down to a backup quarterback, you'd hold Kansas to 3 points in the first half, I'd have said we covered by 2 touchdowns, not wishing and hoping that they wouldn't settle for a field goal at the end and they get the long touchdown. So I wasn't impressed with TCU. Also, it's, third straight big game for them. Oklahoma State, I mean, they played a third-string quarterback. I like the kid, Baron Morton, for Texas Tech. I think he's going to be the future starter there. I kind of saw that in the spring game. They got outgained and outplayed. I mean, they got a fortunate call early in the game where there was an onside kick that probably shouldn't have been given to them. Otherwise, there's a possibility they're down double digits, and they still were down most of that game. So I don't like either team, but, man, I'm going to play numbers. And right now, if you're telling me I can get 4.5, I would play Oklahoma State plus 4.5.
Yeah, you know what? I bought some TCU real early because I
number.
Generally agree. I was able to get in at a 2.5. So I agree with that. At under 3 was a buy. Past that, it wouldn't be any type of play. If anything, now, like you said, at the 4.5, it'd be. However, man, more like that. I think honestly, like, he got a little dinged up right before half, and he wasn't really the same. And if that doesn't happen, like you said, couple that with the onside kick, I don't even know if they win the game. Like that, Texas Tech is just moving it up and down the field relentlessly. I don't think Oklahoma State's defense is very good. Spencer Sanders has in the game. They've been able to, run, but there were some times in that second half last week where they had drives to put it away, and Gundy kind of like turtled a little bit. And he's just, they weren't able to really put it into the very, very end there when Morton could barely move around the pocket. So I'm probably still a little more bullish on TCU than I am Oklahoma State just in general. So bought it for you. I wouldn't buy it at the current number, but I am not. It's kind of I agree. Like where you're kind of wanting to fade both teams. I think TCU is just a little bit better. I will say that Texas is like a Quinn Ewers injury in the first half against Alabama from probably going to I just think they're far and away the best team now in the Big 12, which in such a short period of time, I can't believe it's at. I thought this was going to be a much more top to bottom even Big 12. I think they it seems like they're with Ewers at quarterback. just kind of getting to that like that top tier of the Big 12 kind of far and away from the rest. So yeah, I've been a little underwhelmed by some of the other teams going here, but it was a TCU play for me early. Nothing at the moment.
Yeah, I'll agree with that. Texas. I mean, viewers doesn't get hurt. Do they beat Alabama? Maybe even probably. I know they beat
better.
Texas Tech.
Is it surprising
I know they beat Texas Tech.
How like this is a kid at Ohio State who I remember hearing practice reports that were kind of lukewarm on just him when he
practice reports were lukewarm this fall camp.
Yeah.
The word was that he might get beat out by Hudson Card.
Right,
so,
right. And now
I mean,
I don't know. He comes out and he looks like the recruit that he was built up to be. Where you're like,
he does. I mean, he might be a guy that's just not a great practice player, but I mean, when the brights are light, he performs. And I think I got Texas up to number 6 in my power ratings right now. They're a legit football team, folks. Although, I mean, I like looking at the market. They took a ton of money up to 17 this week, and I saw right before we went on the air, I think that was a pretty sharp play at 17. That would have been my buyback spot on Iowa State this week. 17, I thought was too much. Iowa State's offense sucks. That was giving Texas too much respect. Another big game. I think there's some value here. I see it's been group hit it yesterday, buyback on NC State. Then we're seeing more Syracuse money. I actually think there's value on Syracuse. I don't like Syracuse that much. But how much does NC State have left in the tank? Played a very physical game against Clemson a couple weeks ago. Played Florida State last week. Devin Leary ain't going to play. I mean, if you watch that, I mean, it looks like he might be out for the season, let alone this week. And somehow, some way, they were able to come back and beat Florida State. I don't think they completed a pass in the second half. They ran the backup quarterback a little bit. Now there's film of him. Syracuse is off a bye. They're unbeaten. They're feeling good about themselves. I'm not a big Dave Duran fan. I just think it was more, what is this line if they don't come back? If stupid, idiotic Florida State's Jordan Travis doesn't throw an interception at the end of that game, I don't know here. So 3.5, even though my pure power rating says NC State's a play, but let's see how much. If we get clarification that Leary is definitely out, I think Syracuse should be laying more than 3.5 here.
I know. Listen, I'm not a man that is short on hyperbole all the time. That Jordan Travis interception, when you factor in the situation, like the throw and what I remember, I was like watching that and thought that maybe he thought like somebody jumped offside. That is one of the worst interceptions I have seen in my entire life in college. They're in field goal range to win it, and he chucks up like a jump ball to nobody in the corner. That basically the corner comes down like it's a punt because there's nobody even around him. That was a horrific INT. I'm leaning with you. I was on. This is one that again, it's some sharp movement back and forth here. I totally agree. Leary, it looked bad. I don't see any way he plays this week. It would be a Cuse or nothing for me. But it's one of those that I was really looking, for one of that at like 3. I can see the play. I just at low total going to be a grinder where it's one where like at 4 I wouldn't play it. At 3, there's still a couple of 3 trailing around. I think it's worth a play. As you said, from a numbers perspective, like one that can get mucked up, and then Syracuse covering a number that's above a field goal gets. I like the spot, but from a numbers perspective, it'd just be 3 for me. But yeah, I don't. That NC State offense second half, it's hard to see that working here against Cuse.
Yeah, I think I really like Syracuse's defensive coordinator. I just don't see NC State with a backup quarterback having success against that Syracuse defense, and I think it's underrated. We'll see, though. Again, let's get clarification later in the week. And you mentioned it. I'm seeing it along with you. Difference of opinion there. Speaking of difference of opinion, I think we've already seen it in this game coming up. It's the late game as far as ranked on ranked matchups. We knew it would be one of the bigger games before the season. Utah hasn't lived up to their end of the billing, but USC certainly has. We got USC at Utah, and despite USC being the much more highly ranked team, we have Utah, a 3.5-point home favorite in this one. I am not a USC guy at all. I would say the spot probably says Utah, but my goodness, you see a difference of opinion in the market. Look at that. As much as 5, you can lay 3, take 5. Utah is really disappointing me. They've disappointed me at the line of scrimmage, particularly. They don't have Keithy at tight end, where they could give you that 1-2 dynamic punch at tight end. That's very unique. They don't have that. USC defensively, I think, is getting better. I actually want to hear Knish's take on this one. I'm kind of back and forth.
I hate to say it. I really hate to say it, but I know, a friend of the show who I've liked to fade a few weeks, who got us a good, was on USC, and they got bet right back. But I played some USC 3.5. I can't get to that number with a team that I think is more talented than Utah. It's not a classic Utah defense that's been very good in a number of spots. Some of their early season results too, like the loss to Florida and stuff. Like if you're treading backwards, that
hasn't aged well.
No, and just it's been kind of an underwhelming team in a number of aspects. The Oregon State game, no one goes out, and they get a bunch of turnovers in that game, so it inflates the result. And it's one that I wouldn't have imagined myself on USC here. I know it's a spot that a lot of people were looking at. Utah at home, that can't get to 3.5. Just can't do it. Strictly, I know people like Utah, and the Utah's going to be, a little popular on there, but for me, can't get to 3.5. I think this game should be around pick. I think Utah's performances have been quite underwhelming for the majority of the season. At this point, it's just are who they are, and it is USC offense that I think is elite. I think they have the gun on their head. I think they have the better players, the better roster. And again, the USC defense, which was by no means a great unit. Incrementally some improvement if you've seen it.
Yeah.
It hasn't been as bad as I thought it could be going, and it's the start of the year where they're playing track meets and giving up a 30 to Rice or whatever that. So for me, I took some 3.5. I'm not gonna, again, a lighter position, not anything I'm gonna tell you is play of the year, but I had to play that number. I don't think Utah deserves that much respect.
Agree. Tui Pelotu on defensive line is a stud for SC. I'll tell you a guy on offense. I know Caleb Williams gets a lot of love. Jordan Addison, Mario Williams. You know who's running really freaking hard? Travis Dye for USC.
Yeah.
Every time I'm watching him, he just runs with authority. The transfer from Oregon, I think, is one of the more underrated backs, even though he's a known commodity here. I think he's the most underrated aspect of USC's offense. I didn't expect him to be as good as he is. So I agree with you. 3.5. I'm going to lean SC there. We do have another ranked unranked matchup. I'll get to that in a second. Any other big games you're looking at before we get to a few others and then best bets?
Well, that guy, I know we're gonna touch on Kentucky because I see I have mentioned the regular season win under that I bet way too much on is now Bagwell Levis. Someone go step on his foot. I'll pay. If there's somebody in Kentucky in the chat, they want to kick him in the foot, whatever he's got going on with a walking boot. I'll Venmo you $1,000 because without him, they got no shot. And he's a guy who I didn't even, there's all this number one pick is going to be any of that. I don't even think he's been that great of a college quarterback by any means, but the downgrade that they had, that kid for Kentucky and that's a bad South Carolina defense that they were not able to do much of other than hand it off to Chris Rodriguez and try and churn out some yards. This is one that if Levis does not come back this week, and I know the number's gone crazy, it's gone out the window now to 7. I would still, if he doesn't come back, I'd still lay it. And I will say, I don't know that's one of the quarterbacks I don't feel good knowing the status of what he's actually going to play this week. I think some other ones we kind of have an idea. That one I'm really not sure. But I would still lay 7. I think they get absolutely housed if he doesn't play.
That was one. Circa opened 3. I didn't get there fast enough. It was crazy this week. I just didn't get to a lot. I still laid 6 though, so we'll see. You're right. The backup's really bad. It's well below average backup. I'm anxious to hear. How did you find out the news on Levis? Because that was a pretty big story last week that broke in the marketplace. How did you find out about it?
A little birdie started telling me that somebody that has some significant influence was loading up when it was around 10. So was able to jump in. I didn't even get the official word but once you saw the market go down from, this is listen, no matter what a coach says, I think you outlined this on Twitter there when you saw the number go at Circa when Mark Stoops says, "Oh no, I don't think anybody's out this week." When it goes from 7, to 5.5 back to, well, guess what? Like the money tells all. So yeah, I had a little bit of someone tell me that somebody with influence was loading up there. So I'd like, it was one of that. I kind of like the number anyway, even with that. And then once you saw it keep pouring in, then people already know. It's one of those that you already know before they even have to say anything. So
yeah, I have regret not betting money line. I loaded up +10 big time, probably my biggest bet of the year, but I didn't. My dumb ass didn't do money line because I'll be honest with you, South Carolina I think is not that very good. Spencer Rattler sucks.
Yeah, I wasn't one that kept buying it.
Play calling in that one. I mean, I would have ran Rodriguez until he couldn't. He couldn't walk. I mean, I don't know. I mean, I was still worried at halftime that I might not cover. To be honest,
I agree with you. Like, it was one that I didn't, keep buying it through when on Saturday when people are buying it through the 6, through the 4, through the. I stopped after that early buy because I agree with you. I had no faith in South Carolina just as a team, but I mean, it was the right side, no doubt. So yeah, I'm Kentucky arrow down if Levis can't go big time.
Let's talk another peculiar line for this week. I think you and I have agreement here. Line got away from us a little bit.
Before showtime, I know where you're going.
Yeah. We got Minnesota favored by 6.5 on the road, low total as well, over a ranked Illinois team, an Illinois team that's far exceeded expectations so far. I think you and I are going to have a similar handicap here. I want to hear your take first. Minnesota, almost a full touchdown favorite against Fighting Illini.
Yeah, this is one that, I was watching that Illinois-Iowa game as soon as DeVito went down, played some Iowa live there, was in the beautiful city of Detroit, hopping around, trying to get as much Minnesota down quietly as I could last night. I'll tell you, Sikowski,
what'd you lay?
I laid some money. Honestly, I liked the money line when it was around minus 165, 175, better than the 3.5 there. So was laying that. I'll tell you what, though, this is a very similar to what the game we just talked about. If it's Sikowski, I'm still laying the 6.5. He is no business. I mean, that's playing Power 5 football. I mean, at one point there, he was like 8 of 19 for like 12 yards. Like they just, everything falls. And that's one that I wasn't even a DeVito guy, but the difference between DeVito and Sikowski, huge difference. And I think it's Ibrahim should be back. This is one that, again, I'm not sure. I think and again, not a doctor, but I think it's a high ankle sprain for DeVito. That he was in the tent forever. They took his helmet away. He never tried to test it. If it's a normal ankle sprain, usually you tape it up, you try and give it a go. Yeah. He never tried anything. He just sat on the bike for the rest of the game. I would be surprised if he played. And if it's Sikowski, I'd still lay it because Sikowski belongs in Eastern Illinois, not regular Illinois.
Maybe not even Eastern Illinois, to be honest with you, considering their quarterback history. Yeah, I hear you on that. I think it's a good spot for Minnesota. Market kind of forgot about them because they lost outright to Purdue. That was a game they mucked up, missed a field goal. There was some other red zone. Ibrahim didn't play, their best offensive player in the game. They're probably too confident after they destroyed their first 4 opponents. Purdue got their quarterback back. So I think it's a good buy low spot, believe it or not, even though the market says it's not now, at least. But also, Illinois, even if DeVito plays, he's not going to be 100% if it's high ankle. He said he re-aggravated an injury that he's had prior, so that could always happen again. And you're right. I think even with a team with a very limited offense, there's still a significant 3-4 point drop off from DeVito to Sikowski. And you're right. I would not have thought that coming into the season. So I also think this. Look, I know they beat up Wisconsin, but that's still a very physical game. So he played that 2 weeks ago. Then he played another physical game against Iowa. And now you're playing another physical team in Minnesota. You're Illinois. You're not Ohio State or Michigan as far as the depth. they're not just beat up at quarterback. There's some other
Yeah.
players that were dropping like flies in that game. So
they lost their best linebacker. Juice Williams got dinged up. So yeah, you're right. It's not just the quarterback drop off. And they're I put them in the Michigan State category of you can't lose players like that. This isn't Ohio State where Smith and Jigba goes down. It's like, oh, let's get that next 5-star dusted off here. That's ready to go. You've only got a very thin 2 deep of players. You start losing guys, and the level of play drops down real fast. So yeah, if it's art this week, then I'm gonna paint a little bit more Minnesota up.
You know what? Go ahead and put me down. I'll put it down as the best bet at 6.5. I'm comfortable at 6.5. Low total. I know you're a road favorite. 6.5. That'll be a best bet for me here on Minnesota. Any other games standing out to you before we get to other best bets here?
What's one that has a little bit of intrigue for me coming out? I want to get the current line on it where it's at. Is going to be our old. I know you got the hat on. Our old favorite on the show, the Notre Dame Stanford, and I know Notre Dame's been playing well. I know I've dogged them in a few spots, even lost the North Carolina fade. I'm buying Stanford at 17. I can't get to 17 in this game. I thought some of the early numbers that were around, 13.5, 14, you can tell me that. I can't get to the tree at 17 there. I think it's a Stanford offense that's still, again, not great. I know they gave up, horrific play to lose that Oregon State game at the end there. But I think it's an offense that can do enough. And we go back to the old script of Notre Dame laying too many points and wanting to just run the ball and play conservative offense here. So you can lock me in some plus 17 there on the tree. I think it's too high. Even if we're talking, even if you agree with this number, I think stylistically this is more of the game that I want to fade Notre Dame in here, where now the market's come back up on them and they're laying 3 scores here as a team that wants to play conservative football, lean on their defense and lean on the run game. And Stanford's got a little bit, they got an NFL quarterback, they got a little bit of explosiveness. They'll score enough here. Give me the 17. I'm back to the Notre Dame fade well after taking some time off after they hurt me against UNC. I'm back here, even though Marcus Freeman has, don't get me wrong. They've saved the season. They've turned it around. Too many points here for me.
Yeah, I'm not going to disagree. Maybe slightly on how the game can play out. I think Stanford plus 17 is definitely the right side. Believe it or not, I got a best bet. I like the over. I like over 52.5. I think Stanford is going to have success in the pass game. Notre Dame's pass defense stats look good, but they have multiple breakdowns every game. No matter, even last week, you look at stats, oh my God, they held Jaron Hall down. There still was multiple big plays in the pass game that they allow. And I think McKee will have his way. He'll have a couple of big pass plays, probably touchdowns on the board. We've seen this from Notre Dame consistently on defense. So they've been better, but there's still some holes in that secondary, especially because they're playing, 2 of their top 5 guys are true freshmen. On the other side, though, I am liking what I'm seeing with the Notre Dame offense, and I watch every play of every Notre Dame game, and they've left points on the board. I wonder what this total is. Estimated North Carolina game, fumbled at the goal lines, diving, fumbles, gets it popped out. Last week, they had 3 trips inside the BYU 7-yard line, ended up with a total of 6 points, where that game probably should have been 38-20 instead of 28-20. And again, if they're punching it in like they should, which probably, you could be worried, is it a trend? I don't know. I just think it's a couple of instances the last couple of games where they've had issues. They didn't have issues, believe it or not, they just had issues moving the football the first couple of games. I'm liking what I'm seeing from Drew Pine. I think they'll have success running the football on Stanford. I think Stanford's game against Oregon State, obviously, we saw a lot of steam towards the under there because Oregon State's quarterback was out. So I actually think that scoring was held down a little bit. So that I like over 52.5. I was surprised. I thought it should have been 54, 55.
Yeah, not going to get a disagreement from either. I as much as I've dunked on Drew Pine and some they've really Tommy Rees. I'll give them credit. It is a good coaching staff. They were able to kind of to right the ship here from something that looked like
just as you say that, they're going to lose to Stanford.
Yeah, I know that. I hope so. But yeah, no, that they were able to kind of put it together here and make the offense more functional. Mike Meyer, he's kind of a guy that's been able to type it all together for him and put some big games back to back. So yeah, I'll agree with you like that over there, and I'll take the points.
Fair enough. Over and Stanford there, double best bet. I'm going to go to a weeknight game for another best bet. And I think the line's going to close 14, and it's all about getting the right number. You don't believe us? Look no further than the TCU best bet last week. These half points matter around relatively key numbers. I'm going to lay 13.5 with SMU. I don't mind playing against Navy off their by far best performance of the season, an outright upset as a dog, a blowout win as an underdog outright. And I don't mind playing again on an SMU team that the market loved last week. Joey Knish was one of them that loved them. I didn't love SMU. My power ranking said play against SMU last week. My power ranking said play on Navy last week. Both of them were right, and yet my power rankings say this line should bring probably 14.5, 15. So I like that when I'm against one team the week before, and I'm on that team, and then all of a sudden it's reversal. To me, that says that there's an overreaction to both results from last week. I'm okay with it. So SMU minus 13.5, they rebound off the blowout loss that was just misleading. They had several drives there that should have scored against UCF. So 13.5 for me. What say you, Knish?
Let me tell you something. If I lose money betting against Navy again, I'm gonna have to enlist in the Navy to pay off the the loan debt that whatever I can get the GI Bill, so I don't have to. I'm not going to disagree. You don't have to talk me into fading Navy. I'm hoping that SMU, has somebody on staff, unlike Tulsa, that's seen a triple option before, and they're going to hand it to the fullback. Like, hey, does anybody know? So I agree. I don't think this should be. And Tulsa was eventually able to get it going a little bit on offense, but again, I think this Navy defense is so overvalued and what they've been able to do last few weeks. I don't buy it. I think SMU should actually be a team that can expose them and put up points there. And you'll just be reliant on hopefully SMU, having a pulse and slowing down the option a bit, which I thought Tulsa could do, which Navy's triple hasn't been great all year until last week. But hey, you don't have to talk me into five. I'll keep at the blackjack table, keep doubling down until they pull me away here against Fade Navy. So yeah, I'm with you. You're not going to get any Navy defense from me, other than they've my future son can't go to college anymore. He's gonna have to join the Navy. So
there you go. You got any other best bets? That's it for me. I'm sorry, guys. I see in the chat that they wanted a game of the year. I don't have one this week, to be honest with you. The board's been crushed. I couldn't even get to openers yesterday at 11 a.m. I couldn't get the stuff I wanted to bet. I swear it got botted. People were asking me, what happened? Where's all the movement today? As far as the totals, I'm like, yeah, there was movement yesterday within 20 seconds of the open.
Right. No,
15 games moved 6 points in a minute. So I don't know what to tell y'all. So this is a lower volume. First week of the year, I'm a little bit lower volume. I'm usually a guy that bets like 60 or more on the open. I bet 40. I know that sounds like a lot, but that's, in 1 week you go from 60 to 40. That's a hell of a lot of volume cut down when you're betting open. So that's all I got right now. if I got more, I'll put it in the bet stamp, the marketplace as we get more information. We also went, speaking of more information for me, we got 5-6 games again with quarterback injuries. I didn't mention, I kind of, hint, hint, wink, wink. I'm kind of liking Arkansas because I think KJ Jefferson's back. And watching the BYU Notre Dame game, I think Jaron Hall's not 100%. Okay. And if they can't throw the football, and Arkansas, I hate the travel trip, though, to Elevation.
I know. We talked about their Arkansas spot last week about how brutal it is on them. And
they need a win. They can't lose 4 straight games. Are you kidding me? But, with Jefferson back, I think BYU stinks, to be honest with you. Again, I thought Notre Dame should have won that game by 17 or 18 points. And that's, 2 times now where Oregon really took care of them. Notre Dame really took care of them. And from a power ratings aspect, Arkansas is not too far away from those 2 teams. So that's one to keep an eye on. I'm not there yet. I'm there at Proline plus 2.5. Yay. Plus 2.5 on the team that's favored in the marketplace. I got to move to Canada. It looks like.
Seriously.
My goodness.
I'm going to go. You know what? Number one, when the guys that played, it was last week. We told you Tennessee. We couldn't shut up about Tennessee. We both took Tennessee. We had Tennessee all week. So if you wanted to play here, it was last week when we couldn't shut up about Rocky Top and they won by 30. I agree. I don't have one that I'm like as bullish on as some of one we've had the last few weeks. And just again, macro discussion. You said I'm fine tapering down the action a little bit as the season goes along. The market gets tighter. People are going super early. I mean, that's what I think last week's show, there was a lot more, value that we were showing in the afternoon. A lot of stuff went early today. I mean, Minnesota's one that I would have been very bullish on. Obviously, that got away. Some of the other quarterback stuff. One more that I still like, even though it's drifted a bit, is I'm going back. I haven't been on this pirate ship in 2 years. It's because it's where I was on the Holt Naylor ship for very early, and I got pillaged. My bankroll got pillaged so often by this bum early in his career here that I'm lucky I'm still above water. I'm going to East Carolina, some -4.5. I played some 4. I'm still playing some 4.5. I see, the Chris is up to 6. I'd be okay playing, still playing 4.5 in the market. I think Memphis sucks. Really, I couldn't believe they blew that game. I was really hoping they wouldn't. I think we might even be a little cheaper if they finish that game off against the corpse of Dana Holgerson last week instead of losing it. I swear I've left East Carolina games mostly alone for like the longest time. He's bringing me back, baby. Give me the Holt Naylor's train. It's a Memphis fade. I've been waiting for this spot. I will take East Carolina. I think it's a good spot for them to hammer Memphis, who I really don't respect. And East Carolina's, had a couple of performances. I've been waiting for the right spot. And when it doesn't cover, it'll be Navy and the Pirates for me. They're the only teams I can't make any money on. But give me the 4.5 there as a final best bet. I just think it's a lines up. You mentioned earlier about when a couple things line up in terms of spot and a team you're high on, team you're low on. I'm low on Memphis, been rising up on East Carolina. Give me the 4.5.
I don't disagree. I think with the way Memphis lost last Friday, they could lose. I mean, that could turn into multiple losses in a row. The way, you had that game. You're competing to, be right there for the conference championship, and you lose a game like that to Houston in the final seconds. I think that's still in their thought process this week. So I hear you on East Carolina. I will say this. I want your feedback before we end this. I want your feedback on this. I have found that a couple weeks, once we get into mid-October, there are a couple of lean weeks where I'm just like, I don't like the board that much. But believe it or not, you would think the numbers get super tight in November. You know what I think happens, though? I think there's a lot of guys that bet college football. They leave the market. What are they doing? They're betting college basketball because there's so much more value in that. I sometimes find myself in the last 2-3 weeks of November finding as much value as what I did in September, believe it or not, even though we got all these data points, because a lot of the sharp guys that are firing into everything aren't. They're betting college basketball.
Yep, no, that's a good point. Obviously, there's some bigger services out there. I think move on. They see more. And then is there more in November? Is there going to be more value on 120 college basketball games than there is on week 9 of college football? Yes, of course. So yeah, I think it makes sense from a business perspective from them. I'm interested to see as gambling's got more legalized and bigger. There's a lot of people trading out there. There's a lot more eyes on the market. So I'll be interested to see if that kind of still rings true going forward. But no, I agree with you. So it'd be one of those kind of as things have changed. Like we discussed, where Sunday the liquidity is much higher than it's ever been. Monday morning people are moving on totals than they've never been. That's another thing that just because it's historically been that way. I don't know. Will it be there again? We'll have to see. So I'll be interested. The issue I wanted Heisman. There is a 150 out there that I might have that added some. I know we talked about a CJ Stroud a few weeks ago. I am having trouble seeing Ohio State get off track there. I know most places have gone to him minus 125, minus 140.
Oh,
There's still a plus 150 at. They might call themselves the king of sports books. They're not paying me to say that though, so maybe I'm not going to give them their shout out. But I bet some more last night. What do you think? Because I'm having trouble seeing.
I love it.
Unless I just don't
I
see
love
it.
it. It's my biggest Heisman position of the offseason. I bet a dozen guys, but my biggest one was C.J. Stroud. So I know that hurts you, but
I mean, they're just not good.
He's putting up
Big Ten
numbers. He finally threw a pick. last week, but still.
Yeah, and then he followed it up with 6 straight touchdown drives. So if there was,
I'll go a step further. I think the Buckeyes win the national championship.
I can't, it was the only national title future I bet in the summer, and I agree. And even that slow start, that's all gone. And they've done it without Njigba being even like remotely a factor in the offense, which is insane. So you know what? Like, I get the biggest factor for me is the Big Ten. Almost every player who you thought would have been, a challenger to them in the Big Ten has kind of seemingly taken a step back. And I think Michigan is good. I don't think Michigan is good enough. And he's going to roll. He's going to roll into that game where it's basically, if he wins that, they go undefeated. Where else are you going to vote for? You know what I'm saying? It's like, if Hooker can beat Alabama and Georgia, maybe, sure. But good luck with that. So I don't see anywhere else it goes. I think it's just lining up for him.
Agree. I'm rooting for him, to say the least.
I'm not, but I think I'm now my pocketbook's starting to root for him now.
Well, that's what I root for anymore. I don't even have hardly any allegiances to Notre Dame. If I bet against them, F them for that week. I want to make money. So speaking of that, you want to make money, against my Fighting Irish this week. I'm okay with it. Let's cash some tickets here on Hit the Books. Unless you got anything else, that'll do it for this week.
No, I like it. FSU, are you surprised? Last one, Clemson. I saw somebody mention in the chat. You surprised that got down to 3? I'm not surprised Florida State took money. I'm surprised it hit 3.
Wow.
Circa was trading 3 today. For
I missed it. I was away from the screen a little bit. Yeah, too low, way too low. I honestly think the market's been too low on Clemson for a majority of the year. I bet against them last week. It's 20 on the opener. Circa's certainly lower on Clemson than I am. Yeah, even 3 at power play. Even at 3.5, I'm taking Clemson. I'm not a big Norvell guy, man. It just wasn't the decision to allow your quarterback to do that last week. But he's pitching the ball at the goal line in the opener against LSU to wrap up the game. When you can just, hand the ball off 3 times, score a touchdown, game over. No, he's pitching it. Like, it's 1985 Service Academy football. I don't know, man. I think Clemson's the right side there. So, yeah, I am surprised. Why you're telling me you got a piece of that 3 or what?
Took a little, but I was on I had some Florida State, look ahead stuff that was juicy. So for me, it was more just, kind of de-risking on some of the good Florida State numbers I had, because I agree it got down too low there. But even at 3.5, I agree with you. I'm surprised it's got down this low. I'm just not. Yeah, I'm not as. I'm a little confused by that. It's much bullish nature of the Florida State. And for me, it's not even. I'm not even a Clemson lover on that. I'm just not as in love with this Florida State team in a number of ways there than appears to be the market favoring them. So yeah, that's an odd one for me. And the only thing I have is I don't even know if I can say this. Fuck Lane Kiffin, take a knee. You classless son of a bitch. How are you about to punch it in with 10 seconds later on Vanderbilt? Have some class. Jesus Christ, I know he knew the spread. He hadn't covered. He could barely cover all year. I know he knew the spread, and he had been on his terrible ATS record this year, and he punched it in, and then says, the play clock was run down. I didn't know what to call. Get the fuck out of here. So that cost me some money last week. But
I will address John real quick in the chat. Buffalo minus 16.5. As long as win's not a factor there, I lean over in that game. 16.5, you're right. I'd make the line 17 there. You're right. Kent State. +9 seems. Toledo benefited greatly from turnovers last week. Kent State continues to move the football, but doesn't score. It's
insane. They're like yardage to points difference. It's just mind blowing. So
Yeah, Kent State +9 for me, I think is definitely the right side. In fact, I mean, he's on to me. I was waiting to see if that went to 10. At 10, that is best bet material for me. Like best bet of the week material, not just one best bet, the best bet. We'll see if it continues to climb on Toledo. I doubt it, though. We'll see. If that's it for me. If that's it for you, buddy.
That wraps it. That was a good one. I hopefully we can keep it rolling.
Let's do it. 22-12 on the best bets. Let's good luck to our best bets this week. Thank you all for watching. He is the man, the myth, the legend himself, Joey Knish. I'm Brad Powers. You just watched Hit the Books, part of the Hammer Betting Network.